people. Uh, Apparently in South Carolina, they about to have this grand old Juneteenth celebration, and the poster folks for it happen to be a white couple on the other side.
Audio Jungle.
Good afternoon to everybody on the West Coast, and good evening to everybody on the East Coast. I am Charles Cole. That is Jubilee Ransom. Our two partners are out actually working on some South Star Classroom business today. So it's just Jube and I holding it down, and it just kind of worked out. It kind of worked out that today we're talking about Juneteenth, which is becoming a much more popular day of celebration across the country. A lot more people know about it, and that includes other groups and other races. And we have some interesting things that are going on, but it's some strong debate points, and I think we're gonna have a lively discussion about it. But before I go there, Miss Jubilee, how you doing today?
I am doing excellently. I'm doing really well.
That's what's up.
You know, the shift in my hair, this temporary shift because I had a show this past Friday with a full live band and all of that. And so my heart is full because I was able to build out my first band here in the DMV. It's been a year since I relocated out here. So that is the extra joy you might sense today.
Would you like to tell people what it is that when you say you have a show, what do you mean? What do you do? What other talent does Miss Jubilee Ransom have?
Yes. So in addition to being a leadership strategist and coach, I am also a singer, songwriter / indie artist. I have music out on Apple Music, Spotify, etc. But I sing. I've been singing since I was 3 years old. And my parents said one of the first songs I sang or artist I sung a song by was Whitney the Houston. May she rest in peace.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I mean, I sung some Whitney Houston songs early on in life. I don't mean I was good at it though, but I'm sure you are incredible. I don't know if you was hitting those notes at 3, but God bless you either way.
I probably was trying to. They probably was like a scratchy violin, but I was doing my best.
I mean, I do love live music. It's a thing. I actually posted this. There was a clip of Etta James singing At Last after she had came out of like her addiction and her relationship, and it was one of her first live performances again after a lot of stuff had happened. It was just beautiful. I love live music. I catch it usually whenever I'm traveling, and going to Paris is one of my favorite things, and that's partially why you can still catch some nice little. Anyway, I'm glad you're doing well today. You look great. Omar and David, I hope y'all are having an incredible time today. But our brown brothers are not here. I still would have done the Juneteenth topic had they been here. I just want to say that. And I would love their thoughts when they get here. But it's the black folks today. And so with that being said, so Jude, we have been talking and I had been looking for okay, what's the topic? And I was searching what's the thing that's kind of happening right now that a lot of people are reacting to. So I put a few things on my Twitter. And the one that got a lot of responses, or the most responses, was about what's going on in South Carolina. So let me bring you up to date. In South Carolina, they are preparing for this large Juneteenth celebration event. And for the event, though, that says, hey, the celebration is here. It's like on posters, on street posts and things like that as you go around. The model people that they're showing is a white couple. It's 2 white people, which ain't no black people in there. It ain't none of that. It's just those 2 white people on the Juneteenth day. It's funny to me. It probably shouldn't be funny, but it is very funny to me. And they got a lot of reactions. They got a lot of pushback. And it's a brother that's putting it together. So you have heard nothing about this, right?
No.
Okay. Before I get, do you want to have an initial reaction now, or do you want to wait to hear what the brother had to say about it that was responsible?
I want to wait to hear what the brother has to say about it.
With that being said, let's show this brother and let's get this going. This is the brother right here. And give me a thumbs up if you can hear it when he starts talking.
The images on the flag were very intentional. And it was intentional for the fact that no matter what you want to do, it takes everybody to come together and to support and to push any vision forward. And we have for so long been asking for a seat at the table. We have been knocking at the door, include us. And now that we have a seat at the table, the last thing we want to do is what's been done to us for years, is exclude. We've been excluded. The images on the flag were very intentional, and it was intentional.
Okay. So that is what homie had to say. Those are his thoughts. Those thoughts are his. He plays a role and a part in the celebration, and that's what he stood 10 toes down, baby, on why he chose to show those people. And to the right, you could see the poster. So, what are your initial reactions to the Juneteenth celebration being modeled by two white people in South Carolina? This is very serious right now. This is very serious.
I know it's very serious, but this has got to be a joke. Oh my God. Okay, I am trying to stop myself from laughing until I cry, because like watching that was really hard. What is his name? Is he gonna be nameless? Okay, well, sir, no.
Mr. Juneteenth coordinator.
Mr. Juneteenth coordinator.
Yes.
No, take those two white people and put them on a July 4th flyer.
Okay, so what do we? So here's the question that I had, right? Like, what's this guy wrong for putting white people as the faces of the Juneteenth celebration?
Yes.
So why was he wrong? Tell me why you think he was wrong.
God, I'm trying to hold together. Okay. You know what? Let's stray away from right and wrong, and let's move to what would have been a better representation or more appropriate, right? And so again, I'm a roots person. I go like, so given the root and the purpose of Juneteenth, right, which is connected to Black people, right, and their emancipation, true emancipation in this country, right, which did not happen when it happened for the white people in this country, right? Things that are about Juneteenth, whether it is a flyer, the agendas, whatever is included in the festivities and activities for that day, should be a great representation of Black people, including the promo. So I wouldn't have even been mad if he was talking about, well, you know what? We want it to be, there to be a more diverse showing, so that, because we don't believe that it should solely be a Black holiday. Then I'd be like, okay, cool. But basically, he just flipped it and still moved in a way that excludes Black people. So he still did the very same thing that he's talking about not doing, right? Why not have, and I'm not a proponent, I think it should be Black people on the flyer. But if you really wanted to move to that place and say, oh my God, we need to have white people, why not put Black people on the flyer still with white people? And then be like, look, I'm trying to get us to come together in a way of unity. Like, but no, you didn't put Black people on a damn flyer.
He said he was very intentional. He was very intentional in his decision to do that. I think here's what I think, and the follow-up question that I got on deck, you kind of answered it, but this would be a little bit more pointed, because there might be some people that don't understand why Black people were offended or why they push back so hard. So keep that in your mind as I come back to you. I'm drinking water too. I don't know if it's any bad luck to drink water out of a wine glass, but
I don't know. I drink all my things out of wine glasses.
So, we gotta start another show, man. When the boys get back, I've done a show before. We all had wine on the show, but anyway, maybe we'll have to build that out. But here's my reaction to it. My general reaction is, look, I laughed. I did laugh. I absolutely laughed, because there's a lot of serious things happening in life. And listen, everything can be a battle if you want it to be. Like, you know what I'm saying? To a hammer, everything is a nail. I get it. I get the severity of it. And I think it was just dumb. But a part of me thinks that in this new internet craze world, this attention craze world, which actually will tie into something that you would pitch that we'll probably do on another day around, social media consumption, AI, all that stuff. But like everybody is searching for attention. And a part of me feels like, hey, what's the best way for me to get the word out for my event? The best free marketing tends to be viral marketing today. And also thank you to our sponsors, BS3 Network, for joining us. You can see us on the BS3 Network, and to everybody watching us from the BS3 Network, welcome. I think it was a way to get attention. I think that man knew that it was going to blow up. I think that he knew that it was going to get some eyes on something that probably wasn't getting a lot of eyes. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people went to the event just to kind of see what was up since that happened. And I know you're probably thinking like, yo, y'all are education podcast. How's this tying to education? It does. And in the second half of the show, we'll talk about it, because at some point we're going to take this thing that's a little lighter and transfix it into a larger topic of how do you actually discuss the idea of integration versus also the establishment of safe, secure spaces for specific groups. So I'll take a crack at the second question that I asked you, and I'll throw it to you. For the people that are not understanding why it's offensive to certain people, or people are annoyed, I wouldn't even say offensive. I just think that it's annoying, right? Like, and the annoyance is like a lot of Black people feel like, look, I already ain't got no spaces. It's already ain't a lot of things that's for me, that's mine, that I can like celebrate. And this is still relatively new as far as national celebration. It's not new. I know there's gonna be somebody. I call these the well actually people. Jubilee, you know what the well actually person is. Every time you say something, well actually, actually, no. I know what you. I got you. I know it's not new, but what I'm saying is it is in the zeitgeist in a different way. And I think that some people are like, yo, I just need some space for me. Now, if you grew up with siblings, I'm the oldest of three. And, I'm a lot older than my siblings. But one of the things when I was younger is they just was always in my space. They was always in my stuff. So when I got something that could be mine, I just really wanted to have that space. Now take that and extrapolate it to United States history and Black people in this country and where we are historically and all those things, and this message that this comes with, right? It's like, okay, we finally got this thing that's ours. And we're not just sharing it with these with everybody else and white people. You didn't put Black people on the thing talking about it, and you put white people there. You are trying to take this thing that's very pertinent to Black people who have been historically oppressed in this place. And I know that makes people's eyes roll over and stuff. I think some people are tired of hearing the terms oppressed and this and all that stuff. I hear it. I get it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it ain't just white people that's annoyed with it. I know some Black people that's like, I'm tired of hearing this shit. But you take that thing, you took that, and you didn't make it like a thing where they shared, which I still would have been annoyed with. You erase Black people and you put these white folks to make them feel comfortable and welcome. And I have some other thoughts about that. But before I get too loquacious, what are your thoughts on just that piece? Like next question is like, why do you think, if you had to explain to people that were confused as to why some might be annoyed or offended by this, how would you explain it? Because you're a lot nicer than I am.
I mean, I agree with you. When I think about space for Black people, on a national level, you got Black History Month, which is the shortest month of the year. You have Juneteenth, which is very new. It's old, but it's very new in terms of consciousness, in terms of, people observing the day, in terms of it becoming a federal holiday, and now, corporations and organizations honoring it. That's relatively new. So we didn't really even get to wet our whistle on embracing it as a day that is for us, right? And then the other would probably be Kwanzaa, right? So it's like, where do we have that space? And based on what the gentleman said in the video, it sounds like he's trying to say, that he doesn't want to become the oppressor, but that's really reaching. So you're going to right the wrong that was done to Black people in America by putting 2 white people on the flyer. And then just on the what's the word I'm looking for? Just a logical kind of maybe marketing, advertising 101. It's like people want to see themselves, right? If it was a flyer for a specific group, nurses, doctors, the queer community, right? They will put those people on the flyer as a way to say, you are welcome here. This is a day for you, an event for you. We want you to come and join us, So why put white people on the flyer? So I'm laughing still, but of course it's annoying because I don't see myself on a flyer for an event that I know is for me and for my people, or is designed to be.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, let me be very honest and real, man. Like, there's a bunch of things that's like specific to certain groups that you might get invited to. So, for instance, I know a lot of people that love Cinco de Mayo, and I know a lot of people that love St. Patrick's Day. And in the Chicago area, St. Patty's Day is a big thing. It's a big deal. Like they like the water downtown, they turn it green, right, to like honor St. Patrick's Day. Like it's a fun celebration. You can go into there's a lot of pubs there, and they welcome everybody. But it's very clear, like that this is like an Irish holiday, and it's celebrating Irish heritage. Now that don't mean that. Listen, Black people get the same discounts at the bar the same night. You know what I'm saying? And like you are invited in. I have a lot of Brown fans, and like. And Cinco de Mayo is a big deal. Now, I still get invited to whatever cookout there. I still get invited to the party. This Juneteenth celebration is still open to everybody. But I do think that it would be disrespectful if on Cinco de Mayo they put a Black person on the flyer. We now live at a time where everybody feels entitled to everything. And I just think that it's like, I don't think you are oppressed if you are not represented on a Cinco de Mayo flyer. If you're not brown, like I just don't. And Irish is it's a white culture. It's a you know what I'm saying. Like I have no issue with like those folks celebrating their heritage and doing what they need to do. And I think that's like the larger thing. I think that there's common sense. Like should be able to arrive somewhere, but I think it cuts to a deeper issue. But I don't know if you want to chime in before I went there, because I'm about to go there.
You're about to
I'm about to go there. I'm gonna tell you what I really think it is.
Okay, because I thought I always got to the root of it, but you always have a different perspective. So I want to hear.
You want to go to the root first? Or you want me to go first? It's up to you.
No, go ahead. I want to hear. I really
here's what I think.
You gotta say.
I think some Black people are so hungry and thirsty for white people to accept them. I think some people are just hungry for people to accept them in general. And I think all of us on some level have it if you just look to how people are on social media. I think that on some level, people like to be liked. I know that some people say, I don't care if people like me, but it does suck if people don't like you or you don't feel included. Yeah. I think that we are in a world and time, you know what I'm saying, where people, Juanita said, that's really what it is. We can't have nothing. We can't have nothing.
Right, Juanita.
Right. So like, but I think we are at a time where like a lot of people just feel like white acceptance, it just means a lot to them, whether it's conscious or subconscious. I ain't got no problem with nobody and no race. I don't care who you date. I don't care what you do. None of it matters to me, right? But I also just think that like for that man to stand on that ground as tough and as hard as he did, like he was trying to make a point. Like there's a bunch of different races. There's a bunch of different groups that he could have chose, but he chose what he chose for a reason. And I'm not here to psychoanalyze anybody, but as somebody who has, this is where I got in trouble with the BIPOC thing. I got in trouble. I've been viral before, and I've been viral because I don't like being referred to as BIPOC. I get it. I understand it. I understand like the remnants of it, right? I understand why this inclusive nature. I swear my people be the hungriest to be. Once we get in a door, we want to include every single person, and I don't think that that's inherently wrong or inherently bad.
But
if I got
the other way around, so.
it not only does it not work the other way around, it tends to like come back and punch us in the face. So let me tell you what I mean. So if there's an initiative that's supposed to be for Black people, and it started out for Black people, and then you turn to a thing of people of color or BIPOC, or you open that up. Statistically, what has happened and what we have seen happen is other groups that are not Black will end up being the ones that are able to take advantage of that thing that's supposed to help. Now, it just is what, this is not me saying I don't want nobody else to get what they need to get. But if there's a scholarship for Indian Americans, then God bless the scholarship for Indian Americans. I'm not going to change my name and try to like slide in there under different auspices, right? So that is, I think it really comes down to this need to feel loved, to feel accepted. And for some people, that acceptance can only come, or ultimately can come, from white people. I think we center white people in a lot of different things. And I think white people are used to being centered. That's why they are outraged when they don't get access to something. I will never have this argument. I've seen this argument. I will never argue with a white person about the N-word. I just won't. I'll have that discussion with an older Black person, and I'll have, and I might have a different perspective, and we can have that talk. But it's just some folks are just not used to hearing no. And I think that this man was appeasing those people. And I think he hopes that those people really show up for him. I feel like he's gonna be holding somebody's bag.
Say it again.
I said I feel like he's gonna be left holding the bag, though. I feel like when his ass is out of a job or whatever the case is, I hope they got his back.
I mean, I doubt it, and I would love to hear the backstory. Like, this is like, or the conversation leading up to him making the decision that this is what this flyer should be. And I also would want to know if the white people cared, if they saw the flyer and was like, "Oh, I'm going." Right? Like, I don't know. Like, how much change, how much interest do you think them being on that flyer actually generated? I don't know. I got you. Well, anyway, so that's well. Is there a different route for you? I just want to know if you had a different route. No, I think I find your perspective interesting. And you know me and my question part.
Yeah, you can definitely ask questions. You can disagree, all that stuff. I'm curious.
Yeah, it makes me think. I hear the BIPOC thing. Now you gotta send me this viral video so I can.
It wasn't I think I said it in something and I got quoted, and then just this thing that blew up. It blew up in the Bay, then it blew up nationally. And anyway, it was funny. I mean, the crazy thing about going viral is you can just turn your phone off. But it's crazy. It's crazy how that works. It's crazy.
That's beautiful. Gotcha. But I would agree with you in terms of us trying to bring everybody else through the door. And I also think it has to do with just identity and like chutzpah, for lack of a better term. It's like, what do you believe? And are you willing to, at this moment, stand in what you believe? And the dude next to the flyer, to me, like, I don't know if you know what you believe. If you're able to be shifted in a place, we actually had to fight to have this day recognized right here in this country. And then you make a flyer with white people. It's like, so do you understand the significance of the day, of the holiday, of us observing it? Right. And like, what do you really believe? What do you believe about your people, about yourself? Like, it makes me call into question your knowledge of your own identity and what you believe.
I'm gonna stay there with you because I think we've alluded to it, but we haven't said it. So I'm gonna just say it's flat out there. I think it's beautiful when subgroups have their own thing and they allow you to be a part of it or to learn from it. Like, I think that, like, so for instance, I've never been, let's say if I got invited to a bar mitzvah, I'm not Jewish. That's not how I grew up, right? But if I got invited and I got to take in that culture, I got to learn about why they do this that way. Not only am I not Jewish, I'm Christian. I'm not even of that religion, but I could respect like the space and the traditions and the history of this thing. I think it's beautiful that these young people have to learn their, like their religious text and to recite it. Like, I think that is, and I think that it has value to them. And I don't, you know what I'm saying? I just think that that's a beautiful thing. And I don't feel left out because that's not my religion, because that's not how I came up culturally. I would feel honored if like I got to learn about that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't, you don't just have a right to everything. Like sometimes some people want, yeah, everything ain't for you. It's just not. It's just not. I remember being a kid. Okay. Yeah, I remember being a kid, and you know, my grandmother would have friends over, my parents or whatever, and the adults would be talking, right? And then it's like you know, if you're a kid that lives somewhere any remotely where near the South, maybe Midwest, Southern Midwest to the South or whatever, you would hear this thing like, this is the adult table, this is the grown folk, this is not the table for you. You know what I'm saying? And you want to be at that table and you get it, and then you know what I'm saying? But it's like, no, like this is not this, or my grandmother would be, it would be a bunch of her women friends, and she's like, this is women talking. Like this is grown women talking. You are a child, you're a little boy, go over there. And I'm only making that point because I think I grew up with the understanding like every space ain't my space. Like everything don't need to happen. Like every like I think every group needs their space. I think there are spaces. I'll just bring it to you and I. You a black woman, I'm a black man. There are things that we're gonna do together. But I also think that it's powerful for you to have a space of just you with other like-minded black women. The same way I need space with just me and other black men. Agreed. I think that David and Omar need spaces with people that they share an affinity for, because they're just conversations that need to be had in-house. There's just moments and ways to kind of let your hair down. That don't mean that Jubilee don't rock with me or that Omar and David don't rock with me or vice versa. It just means, yo, we have a shared set of experiences. There's times that we all together, but there's also times over here where we got to be able to go and have those conversations and to deal with our own stuff. Like, Agreed. You know what I'm saying? It's some conversations and fights I just will not have in front of guests, in front of company. I just refuse to do it. And some people might feel differently, but that's my thing on the whole Juneteenth thing. I don't know if you had anything to glean there.
Yeah, I mean, you just got me thinking about the fact that like this opportunity really is a teaching opportunity. Like we could teach, you know, good old white people and people from all, you know, races and spaces, right? Mm-hmm. What we embrace like on this day. And I think secondly, for the white people, I'm speaking specifically because the white people are on the flyer. It's like learn how to be a part of something. Like this is how you can learn learn how to what inclusivity looks like, right? But you gotta take a back seat, right? Or get off the stage. Do you know how to like just come to the concert and not be the artist? Like, do you always have to have the mic in your hands or get honorable mention to care about something? Right? This is a holiday, a day that we observe, that we embrace, and you're welcome to, like you said, if you were invited to a bar mitzvah or what have you, right? You get to come in and see how things are done here. Is it okay? Do you know how to do that? Can you just come in and be a part of it and not have to be running it or mentioned or what have you? Like, are you mature enough and solidified in your identity enough where you can do that with us on our day?
I completely get you, man. I think that leads to Juanita says, sorry, you can't spell. We got what you were saying, Juanita. We know you typing fast. Keep typing. We got you. You part of the show today. Yes. It's all good. But I think that so how do you teach on integration versus sacred spaces for distinct groups? Like, this is how we tie this back in, right? How do you help bring up a people, a new generation of folks? Like, how do you talk about this thing? Because this is for me where common sense comes in, because I could see somebody that's just trying to be a person, but being like, all right, well, let's look at Disney and let's look at the Little Mermaid and Halle, you know, and Halle Bailey doing, you know, the Little Mermaid. First off, you're talking about a make-believe character for Disney, and the goal is to make $1 billion. Like I could just see the conflation of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I would have been fine if she didn't do that. I would have been fine. We would have had our own character, but I don't care either way. It just doesn't infringe on what I feel like are my freedoms. But how do you have that conversation? How do you introduce this? You are a mother and you are an educator and you support educators.
For sure.
So if you're dealing with school-age young people, like, how do you even have this conversation around, you know, integration versus like sacred spaces? and help them delineate between, you know, when either is appropriate.
For sure. I mean, it's such a what a challenging process, but a necessary one. For me, like, it's the word I keep going back to. It's identity. Like, who are you? And I know that this is not something that schools teach, right? This starts at home base. And I can't say that I've come across a curriculum in my almost, 20 some odd year career where I've seen that they actually go into those spaces. That comes from home. But I think in order to make it in this world and in this country, you got to know who you are. You got to know where you come from. And given that we are Black people in this country and we are still fighting to make sure that we are represented in curricula, we got to do it at home. We got to do it in our safe spaces and community. We got to do it at the community centers, at the rec centers, at churches, so I think that really is the foundation. I have conversations, right? I'm a believer / Christian, and I'm Black. And so I take time and, we pray together, and I talk to my sons about both being Black in this world and loving Jesus in this world and what that means to us and our family. The thing is boundaries. Exactly. Boundaries, right? Like, and knowing that there is a group of people that don't want to respect them, don't want to acknowledge that they exist, right? And so we're watching the episode of Bel-Air. Did you ever watch that show?
I've seen every episode.
Oh, have you? Because you give me, like, I watch poli-sci shows like on Saturday night, like I be studying, like that's what you give. So
I'm not gonna stand for this disrespect. Continue.
I mean, you can just skip on over, but it's like, I'm taking notes. Well, actually, like that's what it gives on Saturday night with Charles. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But Bel-Air is my show. And so therefore you saw the episode where Carlton was in the locker room, right? Group of his white teammates. He's the only Black kid. And they're saying the N-word, and he's there dancing and all of that, like in the middle, right? So we have a lot of that, right? In America, where it's like, whoa, I can say that, right? Now, I don't want to get into the whole, argument of,
who can say what or whatever.
But the idea is that there is identity there. There's a boundary there that he wasn't setting, because he was allowing them to say whatever. And Will, right, dude playing Will Smith, felt like, what the heck? You having them be able to do that? Like, why? Do you know who you are? And where's the boundary? And so I think that is how I go about, teaching my sons. I'm speaking from with a parent hat.
Well, I knew I was going to lose her at some point. She had been struggling with her phone, but we'll keep it going. So here's until she comes back. I know exactly what she's talking about. Let me finish saying what she was saying happened in the episode. So Carlton, the character that plays Carlton, they go to a super preppy school in Bel-Air. And in that school, I'm bringing you up. I got it. I got you.
Thank you.
In what happened in the scene is they go to a really preppy school in Bel-Air. It's not very many Black people. His dad's dumb rich, stupid rich. So he grew up around white folks in a private school, and to fit in. And these are his friends. These white boys are his friends. He play lacrosse together. He's actually a star lacrosse player. And there's a video taken of him allowing them to say the N-word. And his if you know the story, Will moves in from Philly and he sees this and he like, yo, like, who also didn't grow up around, white folks that felt comfortable saying that word or whatever, but it started this larger dialogue. But here's the thing that's interesting about that, Jude, is like a lot of our kids are now growing up in like places are becoming less segregated. Places are becoming a lot more mixed. And there is a generation of young people that will say, young Black people that will say, well, I can say it, so I don't care if that's my friend, they can say it or whatever the case is. And I think it's becoming a problem for people. I also think that there's a thing around the generations. But so how we educate on that and have those conversations, like you said, I think that those conversations do start at home. I think that if you are in charge of a classroom or in a space of young people, I think you can set some certain ground rules and you can ask that those ground rules be respected. But I do think things are shifting in front of us. Here's the thing about this integration versus sacred spaces thing, right? Have you ever seen or heard of this article? There's an article that came out in 2006, and it's basically these folks are calling historically Black colleges racist just by design. They're saying as somebody who is, I don't like to call myself a scholar. As somebody with a doctorate degree who deals in academic journals and is writing to them and proposing to them, I'm even surprised that this made it through. I'm confused. How can the federal government promote diversity in higher education yet continue to strengthen historically Black colleges? Now, I don't have a thought on the article. I'm just looking at the title. This could be a Black person or a white person. This could be somebody that's setting up to make an argument either way. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. But the point remains is that this is an issue for people. And I need to start by explaining to people the difference between segregation and choice. There's a difference. When there is segregation, there is a rule. There is something that is telling me what I cannot do. You cannot drink from that water fountain because that water fountain is for white people. You have to drink at the Black water fountain. I think that it is choice to say we have built a university or a school that feeds the needs of an oppressed group in this country. In this case, it happens to be Black people. We still have open enrollment. You can still apply. There's white people that go to HBCUs. I think that that's a choice. And I think that, like, when we talk about liberty for people in this country, I think that you have the choice to be where you want to be. Sunday has been called, Sunday at high noon is the most segregated hour in the United States. It's usually when people are doing their religious practices. And I'm Christian too. And this is, if you're not Christian, it's fine. I didn't know Jubilee was Christian. She didn't know I was. It just happened to be that way. But, you know, you can probably, we grew up in certain places, but I have friends that are Muslim, I have friends that are Jewish, I have friends that are Catholic, or whatever the case is. Even in Christian sects, even as Christianity, it's usually the Black Baptist church, then it's like a Korean Baptist church, then it's like even in the same sliver of like, you know, of that thing. And I'm not calling the Korean church racist, man.
No.
I'm not doing it. You know what I'm saying? I think that it's really interesting. I think between religion and boxing is another one, especially with Black and brown people. And I need Omar and David here for this part, but it's a thing, right? Like, people rally behind, like, there is a saying, I don't know how much you know about boxing or this. I don't want to sound, hopefully I didn't sound sexist. I just don't know if you're a boxing fan. So there's different styles of boxing, but there is one style that's called like a Mexican fighter style, right? And it's just because of the style and nature in which like hardcore Mexican boxers fight at. It's actually an incredible style. It's scrappy, it's rough, and you know you win for a fight. Now, they're not the only people that fight in that style. There are some Black people that have adopted that style, but it is, I just feel like our country is so afraid to discuss race. It's so afraid to talk about it. It's so afraid to say, yo, sometimes there are differences, and there's a lot of places we come together, and then there's some places where it's just like, all right, this is what we're doing. But it's usually around food, religion, and sports, where they don't care. They just don't care. Yeah. So how do you broach these conversations? You got boys.
I do.
When you talk to your boys, and what if they came across the space and they was just like, yo, like, man, I want to be like, they got a Korean society and it look like they doing some cool stuff, man, but they ain't letting me in. Like, what would you say?
Just burn the whole place down. No. I feel like my whole goal with them is for them to be very well grounded to the point where when you want to explore, you can, because you know who you are, so that you can be aware of what's happening. They won't let me in. But at the same time, it's like, why do you want to go to the Korean thing? Do you want to go as a learner? Do you want to become a part of it? Like, I can't say I would have a problem with them wanting to go to another place to experience someone else's culture. I think that's one of the great things about our country. If we could actually learn how to do it well without becoming exclusionary, without being judgmental, like, that would actually be nice. And then also being respectful when those people are like, hey, we have a certain ritual that we do, you know, and we are gathering with us because we want to take care of this specific ritual. Like, I don't see a problem with it. My whole thing is, it's identity. It's being grounded. It's understanding who you are and setting those boundaries. That is what I come back to with my sons. And if I was still in the classroom, I would try to find some kind of curriculum. I would try to find some way of adding, because I worked with mostly or pretty much only Black and brown children, I would try to find some way to add to their understanding of who they are. And I think that's also a little bit of the problem too. I feel like as Black people in this country, we kind of have to gather pieces of history or whatever, or lineage, and try to put it together to figure out like, who are we, right? Whereas if you're another race, right, or if you're white, and you can figure out who your great grandfather was in this one and that one, it's kind of easy to understand, you know? So I think we get all confused and discombobulated and looking for acceptance of all of that because we're not necessarily grounded in our own belief systems and the understanding of our own culture and race.
You said something else that I think was dope though. And I think it's so much a part of your practice that you skip past it kind of quickly, but you had kind of even pointed to me about it earlier. I think you are a person that gets to root causes. And you said something very importantly. If your sons came home and said, hey, I want to be a part of this group, they won't let me be a part of it for reasons X, Y, and Z. And you said, I would ask them why they want to be a part of that group. And then from that answer, it lets you know how you want to move. Maybe they the only Black kids and it ain't a lot of opportunities for them. So it's like, and I like this group, so I want to be a part of that. Okay, well, that leads us down a certain path of thinking. Maybe I'm just curious about this thing and I want to be able to be, accepted in it. Maybe I just want to be rebellious and I just want to be different. Like maybe, I went to high school. I actually in my Black high school, I didn't see a lot of goth kids. When I saw that when I got older in a way, but people during that time of development though, fitting in is just one of the universal laws of school age children, man. It is. You remember, did you ever see Mean Girls?
No, I didn't finish it.
You didn't see Mean Girl? Oh, Mean Girls was dope.
I'm not a mean girl. I can't relate.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, Tina Fey did a good job writing the movie. The point is that, which again, I'm a straight Black man. I love that movie, Mean Girls. Mean Girl, that damn dog. It's all good. Dog, I don't hate you, contrary to what the lady says. I just don't think you're a human. Now, here's what I'll say. And Omar and David, they be on your side. Well, actually, Omar brought a dog on the next time and was all cuddled up. And then David got his cat. So I get it. I don't hate pets. I just
don't you want one?
I don't. I do not.
I'm gonna mail you a stuffed animal.
No, huh? I'm good. Actually, I actually like dogs. I like dogs and I like cats. I had a cat growing up. Dogs just tend to be a little bit more needy, but if I have a dog, I want my dog to have a purpose. Like if you come in this house and you're not supposed to, I need him to eat your ass up. So,
okay.
so back to this though, right? Like, but there's a root cause. But in that movie, right? Like we talk about high schools, the movie starts off with there's narration and she's naming all the different groups. She's like, that's the jocks. Those are the nerds. Those are the burnouts. Those are identity is such a large thing. And it feels like in America today with social media that we have just become a nation of high schoolers. It feels like if you can't, like, how do I stand out in this group, or how do I be accepted by this group, or what's the script for this group, or whatever the case is. And I think we are losing our individuality in certain ways. I think that if you are over the lives of young people or people that you care about, I think teaching them to know who they are and love themselves and be able to stand on their own square will make them whole regardless of what subgroups they are subscribed to. I think that that's just really important. And I think you have to name that. Oh, Juanita said that she's Creole and her mother pressed towards her French side. She wanted to be African. I am Creole too. My grandmother is yes, we have some Creole roots as well.
Wow.
Yes, they are there.
I
my
think
people's
that,
from go ahead.
I
didn't know that.
It's almost like you're forced into integration. I don't think everything needs to be integrated, I remember just reading about Brown versus Board of Ed.
A lot of people should read Brown versus Board.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading that, and I was also watching a documentary that was based on it, and listening to some of the educators reflect on their integration experience. And I was really stunned. I mean, I was enlightened, but I was stunned because the teacher in essence was saying, I wish we hadn't. Because the Black classroom experience was a sacred place, because there were those teachers, all Black students taught by all Black teachers who were all educated and who all cared about those kids in that classroom, cared about their futures. No, they didn't have the best textbooks. No, they didn't, you know, they didn't have the best anything. They didn't even have, she was talking about the fact that they might have been all mixed in the classroom, maybe 9th through 12th grade, and maybe had a 10th grade textbook that they were all using, right? And so they fought, and they were able to go to a school nearby that had all the things because it was an all-white school, but things were lost in the integration process. And I think, like, for me, it's more important. Integration is cool, but not if it causes you to lose your identity and like what you stand for and who you are. And so that's why I kind of hover over the sacred space.
Oh, we call this a full circle moment, Ju. A full circle moment. And no, it's good. It's good. One, a lot of people don't know that Brown versus Board is not one case. It's actually an amalgamation of a bunch of different cases. And basically what they were fighting for was, you know, they were saying separate but equal was not working, right? They wanted more resources and they wanted those things. Here's a great book called Simple Justice. It is by Richard Kluger. It is a huge book, but it breaks down all of that. It might just be a good book for you to have on your bookshelf. Shout out to Dr. Fuller, who got me this book a long time ago, but it's huge. I promise you. But here's the thing about that, right? This is my point. This is my point about the BIPOC or forced integration or trying to appease a group that kind of don't really want you no way. What ends up happening is, instead of just making education better, instead of just making sure that these Black kids have access to resources, what it did was it disintegrated the Black educator. We had communities where educators were like professors in our community that was from that community, and they taught Black people, and they were revered, and it was a thriving community for the most part. And instead of, you know, making that equal, they took those Black kids and they shipped them to white schools across the country, schools that didn't, across their neighborhoods, schools that didn't want them, schools that they needed to have, you know, guarded security to protect them. So now they're in a place that doesn't affirm them and doesn't love them, with mostly white teachers. We now don't have a Black teaching base that we had that was very strong, respected, you know what I'm saying, could have full careers in doing it. There was so much that we lost from there. And while I understand the theoretical advances that came from saying, and I can understand some people having the best of intentions around saying, hey, these kids should be able to have this. What it did was it put in our mind that white ice is colder, that we need white validation, that you need that stuff. And I've never been somebody that necessarily subscribed to that. And maybe it's because of where I grew up. Maybe it's because I do a lot of things independently. I truly don't care the type of school you want to go to or whatever the case is, right? I want you to be happy and know who you are. But as Jubilee, as you said earlier, I need to ask, well, why do you want to be there? Like, why you want to be in a place where somebody don't want you? Sometimes it's a good reason. Sometimes maybe you want to prove something to yourself. Maybe you want to, or maybe you just want a different experience. I don't care. Jubilee, when I say I truly don't care who people date, I don't care if you date in your race, outside your race. I don't care if you date somebody of a different sex or the same sex. I truly do not care. But do not infringe on me having sacred spaces where I can learn about myself when a lot of my history has been erased. I can't go back more than my great. I know what my great grandmother's name is on my paternal side. On my mother's side, I don't. All I know is my grandmother. My history stops right there.
Wow.
Like I have to go and search for that history, right? Like, you know, and it's just, when we have this conversation, and it started with Juneteenth and it started with a poster, and now we have come down to this place and kind of talked about how this works in education and things like that. People of any race and color and creed, listen to me. I have no problem with anybody. I think that there are remnants of people's culture. Some of it is beautiful. Some of it is ugly. Some of it is beautifully ugly, and ugly is beautiful. But it is what it is. And I think that we learn from the past. And when we refuse to learn from the past, we are doomed and destined to forget it. So when you are a Black man who is in charge of this very sacred space that is building it, and you stomp your feet and you lay your hat and you put your soul on your right to be able to display white people on a Juneteenth poster, it lets me know that we are ripe for another cycle of the bullshit. And that's how I see that. So when I said you brought us to a full circle moment, that's what you did. You got any final thoughts about this conversation we done had today?
Change the damn flyer. Black people on the flyer. Just put Black people on the flyer. That's it. And I don't know, maybe talk to some Black people in your area, hear how that impacted them. Right? Like how could it be a community event for Juneteenth and nobody? I mean, well, you said they were giving pushback, but I hope he listens to the pushback and makes.
I don't think he is. I think he's going full throttle. I think he stood on some level. I respect the man for he just stood on it. It's like, hey, if that's what you want, I mean, listen. I mean, but here's the thing, and I know some people are gonna be like, well, there are some spaces that need to be interrupted, and this, that, and the third. I don't understand. I mean, listen, man. Maybe I'm just different. I'm an awkward person. I ain't got a whole bunch of friends. Maybe it's because I went to 11 schools and I moved around a lot or was homeless. Maybe it's a lot of different things, right? Like I was good with me. Like I'm 6 years older than I'm 8 and 6 years older than my siblings. So 6 years older than my brother, 8 years older than my sister. So I was more of a parent caregiver faced than like having like these siblings. But I enjoy me. I enjoy my spaces. I enjoy my spaces alone. And that bothers people. Like I can go to the movies and dinner by myself. I actually prefer it. And I love it. Let me tell you. Also, as a guy, I prefer it.
I know how to do it.
I prefer it. Can I? Yeah, nice. I prefer it for some very guy reasons. Actually.
Okay. All right.
I mean, listen, as a guy, listen, man, people can talk about going Dutch or whatever, but I just wasn't raised that way. Like, let me tell you the first time I went out to dinner by myself, and I'm gonna close the show, I promise you, but people get to have this moment. When it's just us, we get to cut up a little bit more. It's all good. It's the privilege of us just being, us two on here, right? And the dynamic of like a man and a woman. I was used to having to pay double. I'm used to having to buy my food and somebody else's food, my ticket and somebody else's ticket, whatever the case. So the first time I went to a nice restaurant and I was by myself, and I usually look at a certain part of the menu because I ain't been balling. I ain't got no money. So, but I'm like, yo, I'm only paying for me. Let me traverse myself. Let me go and explore this full menu. And once I did that, it was no turning back, baby. It was like, and then I went to go see the movies I wanted to see. That I ain't gotta think about you. I ain't gotta answer no questions. I ain't gotta have you. What happened? Stop.
Why you say that's a man thing? Is that a man thing?
Yes, because Jewel, you are a lady. I'm sure you have been taken to dinner. You have been taken for drinks. You have been taken to the movies. Come on now.
I have, but let me tell you something. In the past 6 years, for those of you listening, right, I am divorced, right? And so I've been technically single for the past 6 years. And I, in my healing process, had to learn, right, to embrace me and be by myself. So I have gone to more restaurants, movies, spa, dates, game nights, trips.
Yeah.
By myself.
Yeah.
On purpose.
But you still just paying for you and the kids you had, right? Like that's great. But you have not been paying for you and another adult since you got a dating age, since 16. You don't know the freedom.
Clearly, we need to have a show on chivalry and education.
Well, it'll be interesting. I don't know if Omar. I don't think Omar is married. I don't get in this business like that. I know David is married because I've known David for like a long time. David is like that's David. I mean, I love everybody in the South Star classroom, but I got a special place in my heart for David. But I know David is very, very married, right? Like David is not going through this conversation. All right, we're not gonna do that. I don't know Omar's situation, and I don't want to be married. I don't want to be partnered up. I chill.
You say that now, okay?
No. I've said it for a long time. I've been very, very direct about it. Okay. I will continue to be very direct about it.
I'm taking your word for it, Charles. I say okay.
Oh, listen, peace be a bridge. I love it. Like, what are you talking about? Like the peace of my man. Listen, my money going to me and the things that I wanted to. Anyway, this has been another episode of the South Star Classroom. That's Jubilee. David is away and Omar is away. They're away together and they're working. Charles, as far as Charles is concerned, take the white people off the flyer because it's stupid. Have some common sense, exercise that. Understand your history about Brown versus Board for you go spewing some shit and you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And for the fellas out there, I'm just saying, listen, I understand you might want to have a beautiful person with you on these things, and hey, do that. I'm not mad at it. I'm not saying I never go on dates. I'll go out if I want to go on a date. I'll go on one. It's not hard. It's not a problem. But go, man. I'm telling you, just when you just go and you look at the menu and it's like you ain't gotta. It's like, oh yeah. Now maybe I sound like a broke boy, and guess what? Maybe I am, but I celebrate that almost as hard as I celebrate Juneteenth. We will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat station. That's Jubilee. I'm Charles. Peace out.